podcast specific on the audit and the security controls. So again, as I said, most of the guys and security teams are looking at the wrong places, and then we'll discuss what those are and how it's going to help you. So everything in AI, it revolves around the data. If there is no data, there is no AI, and we know that AI exists, the concept exists, but this was not possible before the cloud computing, and we have enough compute which is making possible to have AI. And now AI, we have to have good enough data, and then different conversation around that: good data quality, bad data quality, hallucination, and all that. So that's not the topic we are talking about. If the LLM is being designed, if a company is designing an LLM, what would you do? How would you make sure, if you were to do an audit and security controls, how would you go about it? So a couple of things we have to look at: where the data is coming from, right? The source of the data. Is that your company's own data? And then if their company's own data, does it include any sensitive data? Is it classified? Is the data is correct? And who approved it, right? There can be a lot of issues if you're going to train your LLM on sort of a data, especially in highly regulated environment. There is some dummy data available in the market, public data on the internet. But when it comes to a specialized LLM design for any corporate or company's environment, this is very important. So when you have the bad data governance, which is basically bad data AI security. So once that is being sorted out, things to consider: who has access to the model, basically when the development cycle, who can query the model, what kind of queries are being done, are you really monitoring those queries, are you really auditing those queries, are there any prompts which you restrict? You do not allow all type of prompts, like somebody can come and copy paste SQL injection, for example, in your chat prompt, and guess what, it hacks the data or it split all the information. So that will be the problem. So model access is the new privilege access. You got to make sure you have tight control around that. So I already touched base about the logging, but when you log those for your model, you make sure you have the logs available, and you should be able to trace back to the log. Because if you cannot replay the AI interaction, you cannot just audit it. You need to make sure you're able to trace back, like a typical cybersecurity or SOC analyst or security engineering SIEM concept here. One of the things you have to consider about integration points. So basically, in a typical AI model, think how your model has been designed, because a model basically needs to be trained on data, so it's connecting to the databases, which is going to be a vector database, and then it will be connecting for the queries, which will be the front end. So this is we are talking about the APIs. So APIs are included end to end. Somebody have an interface, they type the prompt, it queries, goes back, and give you the result. So that's the API integration is there. There are RAG also supported, where you can upload a document. So what that storage looks like, is it secured or not? Is it encrypted or not, right? It can be S3 bucket, blob, whichever type of storage is there in the cloud. So you have to look around that. You have to have identity access management control there. You have to have all audit and logging enabled there. You need to make sure, all those check and balances there. And what are the tools you have there to monitor those? So those are the things you need to consider. And when it comes to the audit, we are talking about what system you have there which feeds the model, what system receives the model, all those. So basically AI itself lives alone, but it lives in your environment. So when you look at the model itself, but it's your environment, and model is being developed on top of data, and then it has a connection with a lot of your infrastructure component. And then is that your shared infrastructure, or you have infrastructure just dedicated for the AI and ML. And when you go through the tuning and all that stuff, is there human involvement involved? Who approves those, right? It can hallucinate, it can give you wrong information, those things. So those things is also important, that the humans are there and the check and balances are there. Something you have to look at, what would you do if that model can be abused or misused? That's we hear all the time. So what have you done around that? If it's somebody who is developing the model, they know inside out, but when you make it available to public, you got to make sure public and production that it cannot be misused. So someone who knows inside out, they can run those prompts Now you got to make sure that prompts are not executed. They should be blocked basically. We have seen already so many breaches around that, so that's another important thing. We have learned about so many phishing attacks that AI model can be used to write a phishing email, trick people, right? So those are the things you may have to check some of the baseline security for AI models. And can it extract some sensitive data? Because as I said, people who are involved in development, they know inside out. So you may have to run some check and balances where your model should not split individual information. Let's say they cannot just type in a prompt, hey, give me information about Adnan, and then it gives out my information about my name, address, and all that. Basically, it's a database in the back end. If you go and query a database, then it can give me information by putting my cell number, for example. But that should not be the case when it comes to AI. AI should be not be able to identify myself. It should be de-identified sort of a data. And then do we have monitoring there in place? Monitoring. You're not monitoring the AI model, but all the component we have talked about. And overall, we need to talk about the governance, like who owns the AI system. Like if the business group within your organization, who owns it? And what are the policies around that? Have you done any risk assessment from cybersecurity perspective? And then risk assessment again goes back to the sensitivity of the data, the deployment model, the classification, along those lines. There are so many data models, even in the ChatGPT and Gemini. We see in the public, we use it. You may say, hey, there is no risk, but there is a risk because somebody can misuse those ChatGPT model and write a phishing email, right? That's a risk, huge risk. Somebody can go and ask Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude, write a script to tweak the people, write a script to break some MFA, write a script to write a PowerShell. They have the capability. Those are the risks. But this is the responsibility of those companies that their models should not spit out this kind of information. So basically, same concept applies to you. When you're deploying a model, you got to make sure those check and balances are already taking care of that. That's another thing. And what are the approval documentation and procedure there from the businesses. So when it comes to security and audit of an AI model, here is a checklist there, which revolves around data, which revolves around access, which talks about logging, integration, the misuse of that, and basically who owns it. So notice we never audit the model itself. We audit everything around it, or the components around that. So that being said, I wanted to cover in this video. If you have any question, let me know. Put in the comments what model you're using, and if you run into a same situation like this where you have to audit a model and security control, I would be more interested. So that being said, I'll see you in my next video, and thank you and bye.